Hello everyone and welcome once again to GSTEF TV, the home where Nollywood stories are unpacked without fear, without filters, and without pretending that the industry is always calm behind the cameras. Before we go any deeper into today's explosive gist, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications and join this growing family because the story you are about to hear is one of those moments that exposes how comparison, pressure, and quiet resistance are shaping the careers of some of Nollywood's biggest names. Today's gist centers on Bryan Okwara, Maurice, and a role that never happened because one actor reportedly refused to become a version of another. According to industry whispers making the rounds in Asaba and Lagos, Bryan Okwara was recently approached for what many insiders described as a guaranteed hit. The script was said to be emotionally heavy, deeply layered, and designed to dominate conversations once released. Producers reportedly believed the project had award potential written all over it, and Bryan was at the top of their list for the male lead. On paper, everything looked perfect. The budget was healthy, the director was respected, and the storyline was already being hyped internally as a prestige production. But what began as an exciting opportunity slowly transformed into a moment of deep discomfort that eventually led Bryan to walk away. People close to the situation claimed that during early discussions, the tone of the conversations shifted from character exploration to comparison. Instead of asking Bryan what he would bring to the role, producers allegedly began referencing Maurice repeatedly. The emotional range, the intensity, the vulnerability, the pauses, the way Maurice delivers heartbreak scenes, the way he holds silence, the way he allows emotion to sit in his eyes before speaking. Insiders say the producers did not just mention Maurice in passing. They allegedly framed the entire emotional direction of the character around Maurice's style, suggesting that audiences were currently responding more strongly to that particular emotional energy. According to one source who sat in on part of the meeting, Bryan listened quietly at first. He nodded. He asked questions. He did not interrupt. He did not react emotionally. But the more the conversation continued, the clearer it became that the producers were not looking for Bryan Okwara's interpretation of the role. They were looking for Bryan to replicate something that was already working for someone else. At one point, a producer allegedly said something along the lines of wanting the character to feel like the kind of man Maurice usually plays, emotionally open, wounded, expressive, and vulnerable in a very specific way. That moment, according to insiders, was when the room changed. Bryan reportedly paused before responding. Not angrily. Not defensively. Just thoughtfully. He then asked a question that caught everyone off guard. Witnesses claim he asked, calmly but firmly, when exactly he would be allowed to surprise the audience again. The room reportedly went quiet. People say it was not a confrontational question, but it was heavy enough to force everyone present to confront what was really happening. Sources claim Bryan explained that while he respected Maurice and admired his craft, he did not believe in copying another actor's emotional language just because it was currently popular. He reportedly said he wanted to grow, to evolve, and to explore emotional spaces in his own way. One insider claimed Bryan said he would rather take a risk and fail than play it safe by becoming predictable or being marketed as a replacement for someone else's style. The producers were reportedly stunned. In an industry where actors often fight to outshine one another, lobby aggressively for roles, and accept whatever conditions are placed in front of them, Bryan's stance was unexpected. Some people in the room reportedly tried to soften the conversation, saying the comparison was only meant as guidance and not a restriction. Others insisted they were simply trying to give him a winning formula. But by that point, insiders say Bryan had already checked out emotionally. Within days, word spread quietly that Bryan Okwara had stepped away from the project. What shocked many people was how quietly it happened. There was no public announcement. No dramatic fallout. No social media shade. Bryan simply declined to move forward. Producers allegedly tried to convince him to reconsider, reminding him of the exposure, the potential awards, and the guaranteed audience response. But sources claim Bryan remained firm. One insider said Bryan told a close colleague that he did not work this hard to finally find his voice only to silence it by mimicking someone else. As expected, the gist did not stay quiet for long. Once the story leaked, fans went into full debate mode. Some fans praised Bryan heavily, calling his decision bold, mature, and necessary. They argued that Nollywood often boxes actors into narrow lanes and punishes those who try to step outside them. These fans insisted that Bryan's refusal was a sign of confidence, not arrogance. They said it showed that he values longevity over quick wins and identity over imitation. One fan wrote that Bryan refusing to copy Maurice's emotional style was the most self-aware move an actor could make. Another said the industry needs more actors who protect their individuality instead of chasing trends. Several fans pointed out that the same audience praising Maurice today would be the first to criticize Bryan tomorrow for lacking originality if he had accepted the role under those conditions. However, not everyone agreed. Other fans felt Bryan missed an opportunity to prove his versatility. They argued that matching a certain emotional tone does not mean losing one's identity. According to them, great actors should be able to adapt, transform, and deliver whatever the role requires, even if it means stepping into a familiar emotional space. Some fans questioned whether Bryan was being too sensitive about comparison in an industry where comparison is unavoidable. A particularly heated argument broke out online when someone suggested that Bryan may have been intimidated by Maurice's emotional dominance on screen. That comment sparked backlash immediately. Fans rushed to defend Bryan, insisting that confidence is not proven by competition but by knowing when to walk away. The conversation then expanded beyond Bryan and Maurice and into a much larger discussion about Nollywood itself. Many fans began questioning why producers rely so heavily on formulas instead of allowing actors to grow organically. Why must one actor's success become another actor's blueprint? Why is emotional expression being standardized instead of celebrated in its many forms? Some viewers argued that this pattern is exactly why certain performances start to feel repetitive over time, even when executed well. Maurice's name, meanwhile, continued to trend alongside the gist, even though he was not directly involved in the situation. Some fans felt it was unfair that his style was being used as a measuring stick without his input. Others said it was a testament to his impact that producers see his emotional delivery as a gold standard. A few fans even joked that Maurice has become the emotional template of Nollywood without asking for the job. Interestingly, people close to Maurice claim he was not aware of the situation until it started circulating online. Those close to him insist he has nothing but respect for Bryan and would never want his name used to limit another actor's creativity. Some fans even speculated that if Maurice were in Bryan's position, he might have made the same decision. As the gist continued to spread, more industry insiders began sharing similar stories anonymously. Stories of actors being told to act like someone else. Stories of scripts being rewritten to chase trends instead of truth. Stories of creativity being sacrificed for predictability. Suddenly, Bryan's decision no longer felt isolated. It felt symbolic. Some fans started calling it a quiet rebellion. They said Bryan did not shout, did not fight, did not expose anyone publicly. He simply chose himself. And in an industry that often demands compromise, that choice felt radical. Others, however, warned that such decisions come with risks. Walking away from a guaranteed hit is not something every actor can afford. There is always the possibility that the next opportunity will not come as quickly or as favorably. Some fans worried that Bryan's refusal might label him as difficult or uncooperative behind the scenes, even if his reasons were valid. Yet, supporters argued that the right roles find actors who know their worth. They said Bryan's career has always been about steady growth rather than shortcuts, and that this moment aligns with that pattern. As of now, neither Bryan Okwara nor Maurice has publicly addressed the gist. The producers involved have also remained silent. The project itself is reportedly moving forward with another actor, though insiders claim the energy around it has shifted. Some say the producers are now being more cautious about how openly they discuss emotional direction with actors, aware that the conversation has exposed uncomfortable truths. What makes this gist so powerful is not just the names involved, but what it represents. It highlights the quiet battles actors fight behind closed doors. The pressure to conform. The temptation to imitate success. The fear of being left behind. And the courage it takes to say no, even when yes would be easier. Fans are still debating, still choosing sides, still dissecting every detail. Some see Bryan as a hero. Others see him as stubborn. Some believe he protected his craft. Others believe he limited his reach. But one thing everyone seems to agree on is this: the conversation Bryan's decision has sparked is long overdue. In a space where comparisons are constant and individuality is often sacrificed for marketability, this gist has forced Nollywood to look at itself. To question whether it truly nurtures creativity or simply recycles what sells. To ask whether actors are allowed to evolve or only permitted to repeat what works. Whether Bryan Okwara's decision will pay off in the long run remains to be seen. But for now, his refusal to match Maurice's emotional style has become more than just a behind-the-scenes story. It has become a statement. And in an industry built on performance, sometimes the most powerful move is knowing when not to perform at all. And that is today's gist.